Good morning, everyone. Nice to see some early risers or late attendees joining us. This is Matt Strickland from the Agri Tech team here at GSMA. We're going to start in about 7 minutes, so we are here. Just want to check that you guys can hear us okay. So what I would like you to do, if possible, is there should be a chat box on your screen somewhere. If you can just drop a quick note in there to say which city you're dialing in from, then we can know that you can hear us and that you found the chat box. We'll, as I say, we'll start in about 7 minutes. Hello again, everyone. Thanks everyone for joining. We're just waiting for more people to join. We're going to start in about 4 minutes. As I mentioned before, we're starting to get some messages from people just indicating that they can hear us. So those that have just joined recently, if you're able to drop a note in the chat box to let us know which city you're dialing in from, that would be great, so we know you can hear us. We'll also use that chat box for the Q&A later in the session. So we'll start in about 4 minutes. Hi everyone, this is Matt from the Agri-Tech team here at GSMA. We're just going to give it one more minute. We've got quite a few people registered already. The numbers are increasing, so one more minute and we'll get starting. Those that have recently joined, if you could just let us know that you can hear us okay. Obviously you can't speak to us, but if you just drop the city that you're dialing in from in the chat box, then we can tell that you're hearing, you can hear okay. We'll also use that chat box for the Q&A later in the session, so it's just good that you know where it is. We'll start in another minute or so. Great. Good morning, everybody. So for those that have just joined in the last minute, my name's Matthew Strickland from the Agri-Tech team here at GSMA. I'm joined by my colleagues Amol and Panos. We're going to spend the next hour or so talking through our new Innovation Fund for Digitisation of Agricultural Value Chains. Those that have dropped a note in to say which city they're dialing in, thank you. We will have about 30 minutes of content as we walk through the term sheet and some of the background to the Innovation Fund, and then we'll allow plenty of time for Q&A in the latter half of the session. And if we don't manage to answer every question today, then we'll make sure we follow up after the webinar closes. Just for clarity, we are recording the session. We'll make the video or the recording available after the event's finished, and we'll provide a link we will send through to the email you used to register for this event. So, as I mentioned, we're going to tell you a little bit about the background to the Agri-Tech programme. Lots of you who have registered already know us, but I know there are some few new names to the programme. We'll then spend some time looking through the key facts of the Innovation Fund to just draw out some of the key criteria and things to consider as you're putting your concept notes together. We'll then talk a little bit about the next steps, and then we'll move into the Q&A session. So as we're going through the content, please do get in touch through the chat facility. Send us a message. We're receiving them here with my colleagues who are moderating for me, and we'll try and answer as many as we can at the hour. So, the Agri-Tech programme has recently rebranded from the Agri programme, which has been in existence for about 10 years. The GSMA is the trade body for the mobile industry, representing nearly 800 operators globally, and also companies in the broader ecosystem. Within GSMA, we have our M4D team, or Mobile for Development. So we have a number of verticals working in different areas, leveraging mobile technology to reduce inequalities in our world. So this ranges from climate tech to connected women, digital identities, the Ecosystem Accelerator program, many of you will be familiar with, mobile money obviously, and us hiding there at the bottom right, the Agri-Tech program. So we're specifically looking at how we can leverage mobile technology to drive financial inclusion for smallholder farmers. With the rebranding of the program, we've recognised that there's a wider technology component to what's going in the agricultural digitisation space at the moment. So we're working within the mobile industry, agricultural sector stakeholders, innovators and investors in the agri-tech space to launch and improve in both impactful and commercially viable digital solutions for smallholders in the developing world. Over the last 10 years, we've worked on around 18 projects across both Africa and Asia, looking at the digitisation of various agricultural use cases, and we've reached over 13 million smallholders in those activities. So going forward, we're continuing this triple activity of identifying best practices, bringing together stakeholders in the industry to share experiences and learnings, and also engage in market level projects and service support to help scale these services in developing countries. So how do we share lots of this information? Those familiar with our website, the GSMA website, we have a number of resources available there. We've picked out two that are of particular relevance to this innovation fund. So we have many more resources online, but these two in particular could be useful for those considering submitting a concept note. The prerequisites to digitising the agricultural last mile explores the challenges and the range of initiatives that can be implemented to address foundational issues, or the prerequisites for digitising agricultural value chains. The report is aimed at mobile operators, but also third-party tech providers, donors and financial regulators. When we talk about the last mile here at the Agri-Tech programme, we're talking about the web of relationships between the crop buyers and the farmers who produce and sell those crops. So in the last mile, it's the processes or the connections in rural economies before the transformation or value addition to those raw crops. The other report there, the value chain assessment tool, provides instructions and practical advice on how to analyse different value chains for poverty reduction. So it's primarily aimed at providers of digital financial services seeking to develop a better rural growth strategy. So this would include mobile operators and other non-M&O mobile money providers. The tool is also useful for ag tech companies and other digital ag implementers working to digitise the last mile. I would really recommend, if you've not already seen these, to download these, obviously after the webinar, but have a download of those, have a dig through them before you start putting your concept notes together. Okay, so just an example here of one of the projects we've been working on recently. There is a link at the bottom to a video that explains this in much more detail, but we've been working across 6 markets over the last 18 months or so, so both Africa and Asia, working with consortiums of mobile network operators, agribusiness and agri-tech companies. Working together to develop a holistic solution where we address this. We're going to come on to a primary use case in a minute, but we've been working with these partners to develop the first stage or first level of digitisation. So looking at digitising farmer registration or farmer records, digitising the procurement process of when the crop is handed over from the farmer to the agribusiness who is processing, and then digitising payments back to farmers for those for the crop that's been supplied. So trying to complete that basic circle of having a digital farmer record, digitising how much crop has been provided, and then using that file or that information to make the digital payments back to the farmer. Why are we looking at this? Why is it important? It addresses a number of stakeholder needs. So there's obviously a lot of risk associated with carrying cash, both in the prepayment and post-payment stage for either the agribusiness or once it's been handed over to the farmer. There are opportunities to increase the rural customer base for operators or companies acting in this space. So once those records are digital, there is the opportunity to build on top of this digital ID secondary or extra services that can be promoted to those customers. And then for the agribusiness, there's obviously the opportunity to improve forecasting and improve their supply chain transparency for their onward customers, particularly in the world of certification and de-risking the supply chain. So this project with MTN and Royal Commodities in Ghana, they are looking to onboard up to 5,000 farmers in the next year or so. We've seen with our own eyes how the difference it's making to the purchasing clerks down there. So just to give you a bit more of a picture here, the Royal Commodities work in cocoa. They provided cash to their purchasing clerks who would go out, meet farmers and buy their cocoa from them. When they were running out of money, they obviously couldn't buy any more cocoa. More cash was requested from the head office. It was sent on a truck that was going to collect the cocoa and take it back. Any delays in getting that cash down to the purchasing clerk meant that purchasing clerk was kind of hamstrung, couldn't go and buy any more crop if they weren't able to access any other cash. So now with this digitisation process, the head office are able to see how the money is being spent, i.e. which farmers are receiving payments. They are getting better insight into how much, with the profiles that are being created, how much crop each farmer is supplying, but also land under cultivation. And when the purchasing clerk is running low on funds, they are able to simply top up the purchasing clerk's wallet so that they're never stop. They don't stop purchasing cocoa, which is great for the agribusiness. So I've given a very, very quick summary of that project. I encourage you to go and look at the video on our website, which provides a lot more detail. We've also got another video case study of a deployment in Kenya, which is well worth a look and very related to this innovation fund. So, the GSMA Innovation Fund for Digitisation of Agricultural Value Chains. We're looking to build on the lessons and insights that we've gathered over these last few projects that we've been working on. We're keen with this innovation fund to go beyond this basic use case of farmer registration and payments. We're looking to build on top of that with a more holistic service offering to increase the value add across a greater range of stakeholders. So those who have already looked at the website and already looked at the term sheet will have seen some of this information, but just to bring out some key points. The objectives of the fund are to scale enterprise or B2B2C solutions, digitising the agricultural last mile. The ultimate aim is to promote farmer financial inclusion, livelihoods and climate resilience, which are all challenges they're facing, and I know many people who are dialing in here fully understand this. We are providing up to 8 grants, which will run for an initial implementation period of 24 months, and we're looking to reach 700,000 farmers fully profiled and benefiting from or engaging with these primary and secondary use cases. So what I've been talking about, this project in Ghana, for instance, was focused more on the primary use cases here. So farmer profiling, digitising procurement and payment, and also digitising communication and advisory between the agribusiness and their downstream stakeholders, so purchasing clerks, field clerks, extension officers, and obviously farmers as well. With this fund, what we are looking to do is that projects need to address these primary use cases, but also layer on top these secondary use cases. So the primary use case starts to build a digital economic identity for the farmers. We start merging together this idea of production volumes and income volumes for the farmers. With that sort of information and with rich profiles of land under harvest, their kind of family setup, we can start layering on top secondary use cases. So we've listed examples here. We're not constricting people to just the three that are on this page. So the hyperlocal weather forecasts, decision agriculture, derivative mobile financial services, credit, savings, etc., or insurance. These are just examples. We're actually really excited to see what ideas or what people are doing at the moment to, once you've got this basic digital profile, what services can be layered on top of that. So when these concept notes are being put together, it's a case of how is the project addressing this primary use case, and then what are the secondary use cases that are being layered on top. So let's look at, we'll look at the application process a little bit later, but I just want to spend a few minutes on the actual key facts about the Innovation Fund. As you can see, we've split the fund into two categories. The first category on the left, the mobile money driven category, is open to mobile money providers as lead applicants who are in partnership with agri-tech providers. And as I was talking on the previous slide, at a minimum, we need to incorporate these primary use cases and then build on top the secondary use cases. This is where the main focus of the fund is, I would say, in that you can see we're making it available across 31 countries across, 31 countries in Asia, and 31 countries in Africa, and 7 countries in Asia. The data-driven category has been created because we're aware that there are some markets where mobile money licenses are not currently available not currently available in those markets. So Ethiopia, Indonesia, and Nigeria, they are the few countries that we've opened up this data-driven category to. So we're looking at agri-tech organisations as the lead applicants here, in partnership with financial service providers to offer these derivative financial services or other secondary use cases that might be of interest in those markets. The caveat is that we're looking for services that have already reached scale. So there's a figure of 50,000 farmers registered or onboarded onto these services, incorporating the primary use case. That's the kind of initial hurdle that these services need to have got over in order to be successful in this data-driven category. So just to reiterate the available markets, we are, I've been remiss and I've not mentioned that the fund is actually supported by our key donor, DFID, or the UK Aid in the UK. So we have certain restrictions about which markets this fund can be applied to. They're all listed here, they're all available on the term sheet, which is available on our website. The term sheet, I should really say here, is the key document to be familiar with and to understand before putting your concept notes together. So they are, if you search for GSMA Agritech and Innovation Fund, you'll find the page, and the term sheet is downloadable there. The other key point to say here also is we will only offer, or we will only provide, one grant per country as part of this fund. So obviously we're expecting lots of applications from many of these markets, but we will only be undertaking one grant per territory. So moving on to some of the lessons and insights we've gathered over the last 10 years of working in this space, but also key components of what the lead applicant needs to bring to this application. We have identified a number of building blocks that are important for project success. Over the years, we've seen different levels of internal support from different stakeholders, and really what we're trying to do here, or what we're keen to see, is that there are sufficient resources, support and dedication from the lead applicant to make this project a success. So when we talk about CEO endorsement, we're talking about acting as a champion for the project. How does this project relate to the strategy of that lead applicant? Because without that, then the project is potentially rudderless. The grants, we're making up to £220,000 available per applicant as the grant. In return, we're expecting match funding from the consortium or the lead applicant up to the same amount that has been requested. So if you request £220,000, then we expect match funding of £220,000. 50% of that match can be in kind. So 50% as cash and 50% as in-kind support to create that match funding. Then, critically, a dedicated product manager. So we're looking for a resource that can be committed to this project, if not 100%, then very close to 100% of their time dedicated to seeing this project through. Reporting to the divisional or the divisional manager in that team. So we're looking for someone who has got experience or experience and an interest in the agricultural space. So part of the concept note is requesting information about how this person who's going to lead the project is the right man for, the right person for this job. Part of how we can assess that is making sure that there are KPIs in that person's role in order to deliver on this project. So the concept notes or the applications that come in, if they're able to clearly show how KPIs for that person are related to the success of this project, that will be a very positive thing in the concept note. And then the kind of foundational elements here, we've got cross-functional support team. So these are other elements within the organisation who are critical to rolling out the service and delivering the service for the users. So this might include IT, tech, marketing, sales, distribution, you name it, making sure that there is resource and interest and understanding across the organisation that when the product manager requests support, they are able they understand what the product manager is trying to achieve and can make things happen for them. Agribusiness recruitment, one of the critical things we've seen in our engagements is making sure that relationships and understanding between stakeholders is concrete from the off. So as part of this concept note, part of the application process, we're requesting that potential agribusiness partners have already been identified, onboarded, and there's a level of agreement to cooperate during this implementation period. So we'll talk about the types of agribusiness in a little bit, but we're asking for one. We'll talk about the agribusiness recruitment in a second, but what we want is that it's not a case of starting recruitment once the grant has been found. Initial discussions need to have taken place before submitting the concept note. And we've got an applicant pack with some tools that can help with that. We'll talk about that in a few slides' time. Just finally on this slide, I want to talk about platform data. So one of the roles that GSMA play here from the engagement side is that we go through quite a detailed process of product iteration and service development. And one of the key aspects there is user data. So we need to be able to see commitment from the organisations involved that the data will be made available, obviously under confidentiality agreements, but it's one of the ways that we support with identifying usage, potential problems with usage, and identifying possible solutions. So some of the key eligibility criteria involves being geared mostly towards the category one, the mobile money driven projects. Key requirement is being registered and operating in the country of project implementation. So you need the appropriate licenses and documents and complying with all the regulations needed in that particular country of implementation. Also, we're looking to see that the lead applicant is the owner of the proposed solution. So, as I was talking about, part of the support offered by GSMA is in the product evolution and iteration, and so we want to be working with those guys that can be the decision makers and actually make that change happen. So we're looking for business owners or solution owners to be the ones that are applying for this. And again, a key requirement is that lead applicants are for-profit organisations. There are a number of compliance criteria that are required to make sure that the organisation is in satisfactory financial health, and this is driven by the way that the funds are made available to us. We need to make sure that they are going concerns and going to be spent appropriately. We talked about internal capacity. That is a critical factor. We want to make sure that the applicants have got the capacity to deliver on what they're promising. And then there's a number of GSMA events and working groups that we organise, and there are opportunities to take stakeholders onto those, or put stakeholders onto those platforms for knowledge sharing, and also building profiles of the grantees as well. I mentioned a moment ago about agribusiness recruitment and how key that is to successful delivery. So we've split agribusinesses into two kind of styles. So what we're looking for applicants to come armed with is to identify both clients and partners. So how do we differentiate between the two? The drivers for a client are that they are an agribusiness that have some degree of alignment with the objectives of the Innovation Fund. They recognise that they need to do some sort of digitisation to improve operational efficiencies, and are willing to host pilots and deployments. They will benefit from a tailored offering that suits their needs, and we're asking them to support to some degree of supporting field research and sharing data. What differentiates a partner is that they benefit and are aligned with all of the things for the clients, except these guys are perhaps a level above in terms of they've really identified or have already started on their journey towards digitisation. They want to contribute as a thought partner, so this is something that's critical for their business strategy. They're a little bit more down that path towards digitisation and really understand the value add that this process can offer them. They also, as a partner to the project, will also benefit from some of the risk capital or some of this grant money that is being made available via the lead applicant, I should say here, and they will also receive invites to the GSMA working groups and knowledge sharing platforms. And we're also asking for the agribusiness partner to be ready to invest in digitisation and put some sort of internal resource or assign some sort of internal resource to the project as well. So the summary would be that the partners are kind of a key stakeholder in the development and iteration of this service, so they will be involved in the product iteration stages. The clients are more a case of they're willing partners, but they're not so engaged in terms of the product development process. All this information is available in more detail in the term sheet, and I'd really ask you or suggest that you have a good look at that to really understand the difference between the client and the partner. In terms of timeline, so we're in the promotion period of the Innovation Fund, end of June. Concept note window closes at the end of July, so the 31st of July. We will review those concept notes and announce which organisations will be invited to make full applications towards the middle or end of August. and then there will be another 2-month or so window until the end of October for these full applications to be submitted. Again, because of the way that our donor or these funds basically come from the British taxpayer, there will be an independent panel that makes the final decision on which projects receive the grants, and that's going to take place in December of this year. So it's going to be New Year 2020 when the up to 8 grantees will be announced, with a view to launching projects towards the end of February, early March of 2020. Okay, so I'm mindful of time and we've got a bunch of questions that we need to get through. I just want to talk about next steps. So there is an applicant pack that many people have requested already. If you email agritechfund@gsma.com, there are some tools and some extra resources in that might be useful in the recruitment of agribusinesses. That gives a bit of background to the project, as well as a profile tracker and some questions to ask these agribusinesses to understand their readiness for digitisation. So use that email address to request that applicant pack. And once you've carefully reviewed that, the term sheet and the resources online that we talked about earlier in the webinar, start to engage your internal and external stakeholders. It's really key that you have people aligned in order to support this concept note. There are questions around how the proposed project fulfills the objectives and strategy of the different organisations. Identify and engage agribusiness partners. Not everybody is going to be ready for this or interested in this, so there's it's not going to be the first company that you talk to necessarily, unless you already have these agribusiness partners on board and in mind. And then start drafting your concept note. This is an online form accessible from the Innovation Fund website. All submissions need to be made online, and there's a list of questions that are going to be in. Once you click on the Apply Now link, there's a document you can download which will list the questions that you will need to answer. So that's quite a useful reference tool for the application. We're going to try and answer as many questions as we can during the time left in the webinar, but if we don't manage to do that, then please do email the Agritech team at the agritechfund@gsma.com email address, and we will respond as quickly as we can to those questions. And just a reminder that the concept note deadline is Wednesday the 31st of July. Okay, I am going to take a quick pause while we look at some of these questions, and we'll come back to the Q&A in just one moment.
This one, there's a few easy ones up here.
Okay, sorry for that pause. So, just working through some of the quick ones. Is there a minimum number of farmers that have to be addressed in a project? So that if you look at the term sheet, the only farmer limit is referenced in the data-driven category, and so we're looking for projects there that have already achieved a degree of scale. In terms of category 1, there's no minimum target per project, but obviously those that are looking at greater scale might be more interesting to the fund panel. Is the Innovation Fund only for digitising crop procurement, or is livestock also included? So, yeah, great question. We keep mentioning crop, but obviously livestock is also of interest. So, yeah, livestock or crop, basically smallholder-led activities is what we're looking to digitise. For value chain technology providers, the revenues are often built on a share of transactions, e.g. mobile money. Is this the typical way to develop revenue share models? There are a variety of models that we've seen. Absolutely, rev share on mobile money transactions is one. Another is licensing technology, so white labeling. If you're an ag tech provider, you can white label or license the technology to the lead partner, and they can use their perhaps greater branding or greater presence to deliver the service as a, if you like, M&O led service to the end user. So there are a variety of models out there. We have a couple of reports from Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire and Uganda which identified different models that have been used. They're available on the website. They might be worth a look as well.
We haven't, we don't necessarily expect applicants to come with a bulletproof plan that your revenue model is a winner or is going to work. That's part of the Innovation Fund. This is risk capital for us to experiment together. So we would expect to experiment with multiple revenue models for any one Innovation Fund participant. So I think the jury is still out, and this is the purpose of the Innovation Fund. Great question.
Can any business entity other than M&O be the lead applicant? So for the category, the mobile money driven category, we're looking at mobile money providers being the lead applicant. In the data driven category, agri-techs can be the lead applicant. So really it's a mobile money provider organisation. So we know that many of those will be M&Os, but there are also other organisations that are mobile money providers there. What we're saying is that an NGO or an agribusiness can't necessarily be the lead applicant in the mobile money driven category.
That leads to the next question about, I think it's about what is a mobile money provider.
Okay, so there's a question here about who are mobile money providers. So these would be organisations who have a
license.
A license to deliver transactions over the mobile network in that particular market. So they are likely to have their own agent network agent distribution network where people can cash in, cash out. We're not really looking at organisations who have a technology and can integrate with various mobile money providers. They can be part of the consortium, but not really the lead applicant.
So this person asking the question asked about mobile network operators. So in Africa, you might find that most mobile money providers, or in some markets, all mobile money providers are the mobile network operator. But we are giving this a broader definition. We're not saying mobile network operators, we're saying mobile money providers. So in mostly maybe Asian markets, you might find that payment banks in India or third-party mobile money providers like bKash in Bangladesh, they manage to scale. And those are some examples of mobile money providers who are not mobile network operators.
Okay. There's another question here about what procurement characteristics should an agribusiness have, whether it be a partner or a client. So we, again, if you look at these resources, we are focused on agribusinesses that directly procure from smallholder farmers. So the reason for this is that we're looking at the close or potentially close relationship and building that relationship between the agribusiness and the smallholder farmer. if there are intermediaries in between, then there are more grey areas in how that money is moving through the chain between the agribusiness and ultimately to the farmer. So we're looking at, there are different value chains that potentially are better suited or more suited to digitisation than others. So things like the frequency of payments and the value of payments to farmers is quite an important characteristic. It's not a be-all and end-all as far as the Innovation Fund is concerned, but there are some where there are higher volumes and lower values that are potentially more attractive from an implementation point of view because of the pressures on liquidity or mobile wallet limits and things like that. So there are some practicalities around different value chains that generate pros and cons for different value chains. Just looking at the next question.
This is easy one right here.
Okay.
Are you going to share the presentation with the participants?
That's easy. Yes, we will make both the recording and the slide deck available after the webinar, and we will we'll send a link to where the recording can be found, and we'll also share the slide deck afterwards to those that have registered. Another question here. My company offers an agtech platform in Tanzania that facilitates payments, etc. We are a startup. Can we apply it as a startup? Are we eligible to apply ourselves? So, working backwards, eligible to apply themselves? No, they need to be in a partnership or in a consortium, I should say, with a lead applicant who is eligible to apply. Pardon me. So, a mobile money provider. We've not got a problem with startups, but they need to be part of the consortium, and they cannot play the role as lead applicant, particularly in the mobile money category. And as a startup, I suspect, or I don't think they would have the necessary scale to apply under the data-driven category. But without seeing the company and some of the stats, it's difficult to say. Is the data-driven category only restricted to 3 markets? Yes. So Indonesia, Nigeria, and Ethiopia, project implementations in those countries are the only ones eligible for the data-driven category. So when submitting the application, does the applicant have to have 50,000 farmers, or can the applicant apply to scale up a small farmer base? The expectation from the data-driven category is that there is a registered base of 50,000 farmers. So what we're looking to do is see how the data-driven element can layer on top these secondary use cases. So yes, everybody's looking to go to scale, but we need to see a proven model in those markets with that particular service. So it would be very difficult, I think, for maybe a smaller, a couple of hundred or a few thousand, to be successful in applying in that particular category. Sure.
The question here is, do you need both an agribusiness client and an agribusiness partner, or either is okay?
So the minimum requirement is 1 partner and 2 clients. So 3 agribusinesses in total, at least 1 acting as a partner. If there are more than 1 partner, then that would be great, but 1 partner and 2 clients would be a minimum requirement.
The reason being is this being such a nascent industry or nascent sector, we expect that any agri-techs or mobile money providers that want to create last mile solutions really needs a thought partner, really needs somebody from the user base to help them out to invest in this with them. So we want to support all the applicants to get a agribusiness thought partner that can go beyond being a client, but invest in this also and support the design and R&D elements.
So there's a question here, what does the concept note application entail? If I submit one, when will I know if it's successful? So if you visit the Innovation Fund website, there's a big red button at the bottom left that says apply now. If you click on there, that will take you to the start of the concept notes form, and at the bottom of that page you will be able to see a PDF document that lists the questions in the concept note. So this is just an easy reference to the questions that will need to be answered when you fill in the online form. But in short, there are some sort of standard questions about who the organisation is, where they're registered, who are the key kind of directors and key personnel in that business. Then there are some more compliance-oriented questions about how the business is set up and the ability to receive funds and where those funds might be received, etc. And then a series of questions on actually, if you receive this money, how are you going to spend it, and how are you going to address the primary and secondary use cases? What's the impact? What's the potential benefit? How does it relate to the organisation's strategy? So you can split them into three groups, if you like. One is the statutory, who are you? Two is how are you going to use the money? And three is a more compliance-orientated series of questions. So, bear with me. I'm just reading through this long question here. So there's a question here. Hi Roswell, thanks for this one. There's a series of questions here. So there, as part of the let's structure this question. So part of the consortium is the mobile money provider, the agri-tech, and the agribusiness. They will be delivering and using the service and generating the data. There is going to be a requirement for a degree of user experience research around that. So as part of this consortium, it might be that the mobile money provider reaches out to particular research partners or UX firms to be part of that consortium and help along that road. There are also resources from GSMA that will be made available to support this UX and product iteration process. So there are two avenues for potential research partners. One is as part of the consortium, and another as an external UX or research partner. Hopefully that answers most of the question. I'm just checking. Yeah. Okay, there's okay, so the question here, I don't have internal authorization to share confidential or commercially sensitive documents, e.g. audited financials, org chart, etc. What do I do? So there are, within the concept notes, there is the opportunity to provide detail or explanation as to why those documents are unavailable. We appreciate there are different companies working different ways, but if with any of these questions, if there is we're looking for a good structured answer or a well-explained answer. If you're not able to comply with one thing, then the reasons why that is the case and what the workaround might be. We have this, as I mentioned earlier, an independent panel who will be reviewing these. There is also a fund manager, an independent fund manager, so they will, if they identify areas within the concept note that aren't clear or require further questions, then they are likely to reach out and ask further questions.
Bottom line for this question is, if you are unable to share those documents at this stage, we don't want that to prevent you from putting forth a concept note. So send us a note and let us know why, you can't share these things if you don't have internal authorization. That's a acceptable answer. We'll put you in touch with Kofi, the fund managers, and they will work with you guys either even after you guys submit your concept note. So if it doesn't let you submit your concept note, get in touch with us, because there shouldn't be a reason why that you can't at least submit a concept note, and then we'll sort out these documents when we're reviewing it.
So there's a question here saying we are in partnership with a telecommunication company in facilitating mobile money transfer to and from smallholder farmers. We work hand in hand with farmer organisations. Does this make our startup eligible? From this description, it's really difficult to answer. So I'm sorry, I'm going to sit on the fence. If the I would encourage an application. It's really difficult to say yes or no with that level of information. If the telecommunication partner is keen to apply as well, then it might be worth putting the submission in, and you'll hear back as to whether it's successful or not. But from that level of information, it's really difficult to give a yes or no answer.
I think that's most.
Okay, hopefully we've answered most of the questions that have been raised. We've got a few minutes left for any others that any other burning questions.
I think it's eligible but not competitive. This sounds.
So yeah, there are. What I would suggest is, or what I would recommend is that there is an opportunity in the concept note to identify the different partners. So it's really important to be really clear on the role that those particular organisations in the consortium are playing. There are the term sheet, as I mentioned earlier, is the real sort of core reference guide. Most things should be pretty clear in that. I know there are some questions that we've already received on the AgTech Fund email address about the term sheet. So my advice is the more detail you can provide, the better, because at the end of the day, people reading these concept notes aren't necessarily going to know the organisations. So the more clarity you provide there, the better. So someone is asking, can I request the applicant pack before I apply? Absolutely. So if you email us at agritechfund@gsma.com, the email address that's on screen there, request the applicant pack, and we'll get that sent out to you as soon as we can. Okay, well, I'll give it one more minute or so for a final few questions. I think there's. Yeah, so a question we did receive on the email address was, I operate in different countries, can I submit different multiple concept notes? So as far as we're concerned, there's no real limit on the number of concept notes a particular organisation submits. However, it's just a case of making sure the relevant eligibility criteria have been addressed. So making sure you have sufficient support on the ground in that market in order to successfully deploy the service or solution that you're discussing. Okay, so someone has asked, I'm an agribusiness and I've developed my own digital tool in Indonesia, can I apply? So if you are In that instance, yes, you could apply as the Agri-Tech if it's an in-house solution that you've developed and you're in one of those data-driven category markets. Yes, you could apply as the Ag-Tech. Okay, you're an agribusiness that's developed it in-house, but that would be sufficient to qualify as an Ag-Tech. Okay, it looks like the questions are drying up. Amol here is just clarifying one or 2 points directly. These two. Okay, so there's one about a banking license. So really this is the mobile money driven category is really focused on mobile money licenses as opposed to banking licenses. That's probably a key thing that we haven't mentioned yet, but yeah, mobile money license, not banking license. Okay, we are about on the hour. Thank you so much for attending. We're going to wrap things up in just a moment. I just want to say, thank you again for taking the time out. I hope this has been useful. If you do have other questions that you've not been able to raise, or questions come up as you're looking at the concept note, talking to partners, then please do reach out to us at agritechfund@gsma.com. We look forward to receiving your concept notes and being in touch with those who are successful in August. Thank you very much. We'll wrap up the webinar there. Thank you.